To have you here with us this weekend. For those of you who are joining us virtually, I will be monitoring the chat and the question and answer. So please feel free at the end to submit your questions and I can ask them on your behalf. But I'm excited to introduce you all to the fabulous Natalie Schlegel, who is the Executive Director of the International Education in the Cronin Office of International Education, and she is also a Bentley alum.
That's right.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Allison. Can everybody hear me okay? Welcome. It's so great to be with you in person and virtually. Thank you for coming. We're excited to talk to you about study abroad, and I have two Bentley seniors with me. So a little bit about my background. I am a Bentley MBA alum. I'm born and raised in Massachusetts, but I'm a first-generation American. Had a privilege to do a lot of time in different countries. I've lived in Scotland. I've done a teeny bit of grade school in Germany, lived with a host family in Argentina for 6 months, and also a host family in Cuba. So I feel so privileged to be at Bentley. My international education career started at EF Education and then to Harvard University, and then here at Bentley for, believe it, 19 years now. And I truly love this place. It is both close-knit and global all at once. It's a truly, truly global university, yet I think there's no substitute for getting out of your own cultural context and getting out in the world and making the world your campus too. So we're excited to talk to you a little bit about study abroad, and I have with me two great students who I'm going to have just at least start off with just introductions of who you are, your major, where you studied, anything in your pertinent details.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alpha. I'm a senior here at Bentley, major in economics and finance with a minor in politics. And last spring, I studied abroad in Barcelona, Spain at UPF. And here on campus, I'm involved with the Bentley Service Learning Civic Engagement Center, where I'm a program manager, volunteering in the Waltham community.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew. I am also a senior majoring in finance, also getting my master's in finance in the ASF program. I studied abroad in Vienna, Austria, which is an amazing experience. And I'm involved with service learning as well, also a lead program manager, and I'm a few other things on campus as well, but that's the biggest thing.
So I'm going to be asking them to chime in quite a bit to add some context. But so this is our agenda for today, is to give you just a little bit of context about how study abroad fits in at Bentley. Quick overview of the different kinds of programs, but I'll really kind of zone in on semester programs, which Andrew and Alpha both did. They're the longest term. They tend to generate the most anxiety and questions for families. We'll talk about health and safety, how costs work, financial aid, scholarships, some tips and suggestions about the application process and the pre-departure preparation process, and answer your questions. So here's a little bit of context. Nationally speaking, study abroad is really minuscule. If you look at all of the undergraduate population, it's depending on how you measure it, whether it's 2-year, 4-year degree, only about 2% to 8% of undergraduate students are studying abroad. But at Bentley, every year it's almost half the graduating class who has participated in at least one study abroad program. And not only that, in the context nationally of where study abroad is getting shorter and shorter, and most students are studying abroad for not more than a couple weeks, semester-long programs are still our most robust and biggest portion of our study abroad offerings. So 42% of that group has studied abroad for a semester, and some for an academic year. So that's a real testament to the encouragement that students get from our faculty and our culture and our processes that make that possible to fit into the Bentley degree. And also 25% of Bentley Study Abroad participants are students of color, and our our population of study abroad students really resembles and mirrors the population of Bentley students and in all their diversity. And that's something we're really proud of, to ensure that study abroad is for everyone and it's accessible. Always more work to do, but we'll tell you about some of the ways that that happens. And then finally, for some context, IIE does the Open Doors report annually. This is, they're considered the authoritative clearinghouse on measuring mobility of US higher ed institutions. And Bentley is consistently year after year ranked as a leading institution in student mobility, and really proud of specifically for undergraduate participation, for semester-long participation. So that's something we're really proud of. The numbers fluctuate every year because it's really just a measurement of students, but we're really proud of that. So to tell you about our programs, this is kind of an overview from the shortest at the bottom to the longest at the top of the bottom of the slide. Faculty-led programs are a way for students to get involved with the structure of a Bentley course. It's one Bentley course, 3 or 4 credits depending on the course, with a Bentley professor, 1 or 2, and the context of your Bentley class, traveling together to an international destination for a specific course topic that the professor knows well, that gets behind the scenes. It's not tourism, it's getting industry leaders, organizational leaders, or out in the field, depending on, if it's a science course, whatever the subject matter is. So students can participate in these as early as first year at Bentley. And some programs change every year, some programs repeat. So there's an option for students to participate in more than one over the course of the Bentley career, or a semester in a short program. So these are offered in between term times, January, spring break, and May after exams. Summer programs are anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks in the summer. They're most popular to do internship programs. Typically after the summer of sophomore year is the most common time to do that. And then finally, semester and academic year programs. So these are taking a typical course load of credits, studying at one of our partner or affiliate universities around the world, and engaging and immersing in all that has to offer. So I think this is a good kind of time to give a first snapshot from Andrew and Alpha of a little bit of just kind of about where they study, maybe an academic highlight of their program.
So again, I studied in Barcelona at UPF, and I think a highlight of my experience has been getting an internship, and at the same time, taking it with an intercultural understanding class. It just opened my eyes to Spanish culture and, just how different Spain is from the US. And also it gave me a glimpse into what Europe looks like, how they work, and how they view the world in many aspects.
For me, I'm from Romania, so I wanted to pick somewhere that was a little bit closer to there. I also have family in Germany, so I kind of wanted to be in the middle. So that's why I picked Austria in the beginning. Also, I wanted to learn a new language. So German was a perfect thing, I guess. But in Vienna, I was actually really fortunate to work with a professor who bought a 3rd division soccer club. And with that course, for example, we did a lot of consulting work with that club. And our final presentations were very different because, normally you present to the professor and maybe some of your classmates and that's it. But this final presentation was actually to the entire board of directors of the club, to obviously the professors, any of our guest speakers throughout the semester. And we've had people from FIFA and like the Austrian football organization that leads the whole national team, and all of the sponsors. So it was a really good networking event. It was a really good just like meet and greet with people. And the entire experience was amazing, hands-on consulting experience. And we got to see them actually implement all of our ideas, which was a really cool thing that, wouldn't really happen anywhere else.
So study abroad is truly an opportunity to immerse and make the most. I'm a big believer that it is what you make of it. And just like at Bentley, where there's opportunities to be had and you have to go out and find them, the same is absolutely true of study abroad. And Alpha and Andrew definitely took advantage of seeking out ways that they could look for internships or look for courses where there was significant project work and get to know, connect with locals for a truly, I think, authentic experience. And they'll say more about that soon. Many of our faculty are very supportive of study abroad. I love from Tony, Professor Kazuski in natural sciences, still credits taking students to Ghana as the highlight of his experience as a Bentley faculty member. So that's just a snapshot there. But I'll hone in now a little bit more on semester programs, because it's really impossible for us to stand here and describe all of our probably 80 odd programs in more than 30 countries. But I'll tell you, at least there's some or not all of some of our partners and affiliates on the screen. There's more than that, but at least some commonalities between them, and let the students give you some to flesh that out for you. So no matter where you study on a semester program, you can take courses in English. We really encourage that you try to learn the language beforehand, and take a course while you're there at least, or depending on your language ability, take as much as you can in the target language. But that opportunity exists to study in English. So even if you are newer to the language, it's still possible to do that. All of our programs are pre-approved, so that you're going to earn Bentley credit and grades. So that means with good planning, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to stay on track for graduation. As students have access to previously approved course databases, so they can see what students have taken in the past and exactly what it would count for at Bentley. And they often get new courses approved before they depart and soon after they arrive. So students typically take courses as electives in their major, in their electives. How many of you in the room have first year students? Okay, and how many second year or older? Okay, so it's a good mix. All right, so there's two different curriculums happening there, but either way, it's quite flexible to fit in study abroad, even into, say, most common a semester abroad works well in the junior year, but we've always had some seniors studying abroad for a semester, and that's even been more so since pandemic, as students didn't want to miss the opportunity, and that works perfectly fine too. It really just takes a little bit of academic long-range planning to make sure, first year students often come in and have it predetermined that they've got a long list of, I'm going to be this major and this double major and this minor and this liberal study, but without having yet put that on paper and see what does that mean and what does that mean for your requirements. And so that's a recommendation I would make, is take a little time before you've put the labels and the badges to think about what trade-offs do you make, especially if study abroad is something that's important to you, because it is entirely possible to get to fit in a semester of study abroad and have double majors or minors. But sometimes that really causes stress on students of like, well, now if you have a minor, now you've taken 4 free electives and you've honed them in onto very specific requirements you need to fulfill. And that becomes more challenging if you need to find that specific course abroad. Did any of you fill major courses or minor courses while you were abroad? Yeah. You want to say something about that? Yeah.
So with the ASF program, which is where you get the master's in 4 years as well, it takes a lot of very fine planning, and I was still able to do it. I took 2 finance courses abroad, along with the soccer one and another marketing course. So it is doable even if you do like one of those ASF programs. So it's pretty simple.
So for me, I decided to take my electives and like general ed classes. So I took a history class about Barcelona, and like the intercultural understanding class and science class. So, just classes that were not part of my major, because I did try to take some classes there, but they were just, mainly in Spanish. So I was unable to pick those, but I was able to take, my elective and general ed courses.
So that's great, two different perspectives, because really the one thing I want to assure you is that we're partnered with some phenomenal business schools around the world. And so even if you are taking major courses abroad, it's a fraction of your Bentley major. So some students are hesitant, I came to Bentley for the fantastic business offerings, I don't want to go abroad and take it. It's really a phenomenal combination, because it's a small percentage of your major. It gives you a new perspective. So it's not anything to be afraid of, or you can do the route of taking other electives. It depends on what's offered there and what your degree requirements are. And I should say that another point of helping students, encourage them to take on academic challenges while they're abroad, is that study abroad is what we call GPA neutral. And that's a really important term. It's not pass fail. And you'll hear students say pass fail a lot, because it kind of has that feel like, well, if it doesn't affect my GPA, it's pass fail. But those grades actually do appear on your Bentley transcript, and they just have an asterisk that they're excluded from GPA. And that's because GPA is, the grading scales around the world vary significantly. And we found over time that all it did was add stress to students. And study abroad students tend to be the most academically motivated anyway. And it was holding students back from taking on, an economics major, taking some fantastic economics electives that we don't offer here at London School of Economics, or a student who's Spanish skills were actually really strong, but a student afraid of taking a content course in Spanish because of the impact of the GPA. So that's been working really well for a number of years for Bentley. And then finally, no matter where you study, you have the support of our counterparts on the other side of international office folks and student orientation leaders, but orientation will look different at many universities. At some, it can be just, an hour or two long presentation with a few students and a few administrators, or it could be a week-long celebration. Do you want to say anything about how you got adjusted? What was helpful to you to finish up?
In this aspect, I'm also a little bit different. I am usually close with a lot of the exchange students from Europe that come here. And I actually got to know a lot of them really well before my semester abroad, which I highly recommend all of you folks to do too. But basically, I had already 5 friends there. And my idea behind study abroad is that I want to go somewhere and get really immersed in the experience, just because, I'm friends with all my Bentley people here. But I wanted to go somewhere where there weren't as many Bentley people, where, I could be myself and meet new people and make those connections. So I was very fortunate to be able to meet a lot of, people from like Bulgaria, Germany, obviously Austria, other parts of the world while I was there, that really helped me get immersed. In terms of the actual orientation, it was a little brief presentation where they told us about the school, good restaurants to go to, good coffee places, where to find the best schnitzel, highly debated in Austria, by the way. So I think I know mine, so that was kind of it. They took us on a tour of campus, and that was it. But that's why I was lucky that I had those friends and everything to help me, show me around.
So for me, I had I think a pretty a bit different experience. So my orientation was pretty. I didn't find it very helpful. It just lasted about maybe an hour, but then afterwards, I could go to the office, like the study abroad office, and ask for help, because that's how I actually even got my internship. Through talking to the the advisors there and stuff, but. At first, it was pretty tough, but I was able to, just talk to people and, ask questions, and then, get help from that. But the first month was honestly not as I expected, but then, as I adjusted, it was just, it got better.
Such a great point from both of you, and specifically exchange. Many of our partners are exchange partners. So we have students from these universities at Bentley, and they're such a tremendous resource to meet before, to meet early on, when you're just thinking about where to study abroad. That's some of my favorite stories, when students say, you know, don't follow the pack of where lots of Bentley students are studying, but say, well, I met this exchange student in my class and we've really hit it off. And I've never thought about studying at that university. So, and then it provides a built-in kind of support network and helps you find housing and things like that. Can you both talk about how your housing experience added to your learning and benefited the whole experience?
So my housing arrangement was amazing. So the first month I lived in Barcelona, but then I didn't really enjoy it. So I moved out and I was fortunate to find this teacher who taught Spanish to like tourists. And so I stayed with her and, you know, I got to learn so much about like Spanish culture. And then we spoke Spanish the whole time because like I told her, like I was trying to learn, you know, the language. So through that, I was able to really, you know, now, you know, I speak Spanish. And then on top of that, like we would, you know, watch TV together, you know, about politics and elections that are taking place in Spain because, you know, I'm, you know, politics minor. So, I was, you know, that was also like very helpful. And on top of this, like she also, because she's a teacher, she has connections. So she took me to book signings where I got to actually even like shake the hand of a general that was appointed by the king, I think in the early 2000s, which I thought was pretty cool. And then we went to, I remember like another talk where like they had economic professors talking about, you know, capitalism in Europe and things like that. And it was just, you know, very interesting to see like how people there, like, you know, view capitalism in the US and, you know, just different perspectives. And, you know, all that was just, you know, thanks to my, my host, but I did find her on Airbnb. So sometimes, you know, you can get lucky and, you know, find, you know, good arrangements. You just have to like look for them. And yeah, that was pretty amazing for me.
So for me, Vienna University sends out like a big, like 40-page orientation sheet, and a few of those pages are covered in a lot of their recommendations for housing. They either have student housing, like the one I lived in. Essentially, it's only for students. You have to show proof that you're in one of the universities in Vienna. So it isn't just for the one I was at, but you had a mix of people, whether they were, you know, majoring in some sort of biology or, you know, some sort of coding program that the other university nearby had. So you really did get to be immersed into a bunch of people, not just business students. So that was really cool. And it was a very international place too. So that's where I met a lot of my friends in the first few weeks, because they did a lot of different events with us. Like there's two of the same companies called Milestone. They're in a few areas of Europe. And we had a big competition because one was on one side of the university, one was on the other. And we would do like, you know, soccer competitions against each other or volleyball just to get us meeting people. And they would take us to restaurants. But they do have other ones where you could live with someone. I wanted to personally live alone just to see what it was like, because we get to live in dorms here. So I wanted to try something new. So I had my own little kitchenette, my own bathroom, bed, everything was provided. I didn't have to buy any furniture. I was also fortunate that I had my aunt like a few hours away too. So I was able to get some pots and pans, but there's other ways to get hold of those in Europe as well. So it's pretty fairly priced. And then I wanted to touch on one thing about the international student or exchange students here, just because like even now, two of my roommates are one's from Hungary on exchange, one's from Switzerland. And honestly, like it's part of the exchange thing because you meet these international people and then you can continue your exchange. Like I'm going to go visit them in Switzerland and Hungary in the future as well. And, you know, I do this with all my friends. My best friend from Vienna, he's coming next summer to the US again. So you continue these relationships and you get to do so many cool things later too.
Thank you both. I think it's such, I think exemplary, that both of them, different experiences, different housing experience, but something in common is that they both sought out living with others other than Bentley students. And while there's absolutely the possibility to live with Bentley students in many programs, it's so important to fundamentally think about first, what are your goals going in, especially if you're a language learner, as Alpha was. I sometimes see that working against students. It's like, I really want to improve my fluency, but I want to live with my Bentley friends. And ask yourself, will that really further your goals? And the other thing is that your Bentley friends will continue, and oftentimes they might be studying in different cities or even within the same city, and you can visit. Living together might not be the most essential thing. And so, and certainly for parents, and I know, and families, I know that can be a challenge to think, oh, that would give me a security blanket to know that they're with someone. But there is no shortage of supportive network of students coming from all over the world who are all new to that university. Even if you're the only Bentley student, sometimes that happens, that studies on a particular program. There is never a shortage of a support network of staff like me, counterparts that are there to support students, as well as new students who are all looking to support each other. So I'll talk a little bit about how cost and financial aid work for semester programs. We're very proud that a semester abroad of aid, whatever aid package you have at Bentley, is guaranteed for a semester abroad as well. So this makes it truly, if we believe if you can afford to be at Bentley, you can afford to study abroad for a semester. You are still paying Bentley tuition regardless of where you go and getting that aid package. What varies is your housing and your meals. International insurance is roughly, we require that of students, it's roughly $175 for the semester, and it's a big bang for the buck. You maintain your insurance that you have as a student here. But housing in many, many, many places can be significantly more affordable than on Bentley's campus. I have a feeling that was the case for both of you. Probably you both live on campus here? I couldn't remember. Okay. Meals, there may not be meal plans. That's quite rare at most universities, but that actually can be pretty freeing. And a lot of students say that making meals with their housemates is actually some of the best cultural exchanges there are. I also want to point out Alpha actually had a competitive national scholarship. So that's the other thing, especially when families are in the room, because we tell this to students and they may not always listen unless you are nudging them, that there are many Bentley internal scholarships that we have for study abroad that you're competing only against Bentley students, but there are also external national scholarships like the ones on the screen that are very competitive, yet Bentley students get these scholarships every year, yet not enough Bentley students are applying for them. So in the case of Gilman, do you want to just say a little bit about the Gilman Scholarship?
Yeah, so the Gilman Scholarship is, I think, a scholarship by the U.S. Department of State, and it helps students who need some money for pocket change or expenses abroad. And the application is about a few essays. It wasn't very long, but I applied, and it really it helped me tremendously because having some extra money is always a good thing. So I was able to travel more than I had planned to, and it was just amazing. And then I was unfortunate because I think the scholarship also gives you access to a network. So wherever you go, if there's an embassy or a consulate of the US, you can make connections and go to events and things like that. I wasn't able to have access to those because my scholarship came in a bit later, but I think it's a good way to build a network outside the US as well.
It's and this is, Alpha's very modest. It's a $5,000 scholarship for a semester abroad. So it goes a long, long way. And we're really proud of him and other Bentley students who earn it. Fund for Education Abroad, similar amounts of money, and actually a lot of different scholarships under that umbrella that targeted to different student identity groups or students who have never left the US before. Freeman Asia obviously focused on students who are traveling to Asia. So we've had students win all of these scholarships, but yet, like I said, not enough students are applying. So think about that. So a little bit about health and safety. We really think this is a joint effort with pieces of puzzle with our partner universities and with our students. So first, Bentley, what we do, we know our partners and affiliates personally. We know them well. We've been there. They've been to Bentley. We understand how they work. They work very differently. You know, they have a university police number. They have 24-hour hotlines, but they don't necessarily have the significant infrastructure in many universities, of meaning like the wraparound services of health services or things like that. And students are much more kind of citizens of the host city in a lot of cases. Now that varies. There's some universities that do have that comprehensive feel like Bentley, but not all. So we know our partners well, and we can advise our students. So we have plenty of pre-departure orientations, both group setting and large group and small groups, and one-on-one advising to prepare students for what they're going to experience. The host university, so I'm talking a little bit about that. And Bentley is, of course, available 24/7 hotline as well. Our university police can reach all of my staff at any hour. But yet we spend a lot of time in pre-departure orientation talking about how Bentley isn't your best resource in a true emergency. And actually your own parents, how many times have you called your parents this semester for help for some issue? They may not be the fastest way to get help. And oftentimes we find that students will even, for non-emergency things, but might kind of go to their families first, who then contact us, who then we have to contact the student and the university to find out when we find that maybe the problem's already been solved, or we can advise. So encourage students to use their resources more than ever. And I think that's a huge benefit that comes from study abroad is self-advocacy, because at Bentley, your students might be accustomed to getting really quick email responses from faculty and from staff. And it's really easy to sit in your dorm and get a quick response and get everything you need. But especially if your university abroad is much larger and maybe more bureaucratic, oftentimes an email isn't going to be an effective way to get quick support. And walking into the offices might be the best way to get attention to what you need. And so self-advocacy, especially in a foreign environment, is such an amazing skill that comes from study abroad. I want to see if you have any other things about just skills that come from study abroad, because I think at the top of this pyramid for health and safety is truly about the student as the critical piece of the puzzle. Because, I've been in this field for, over 20 years, and I've seen the headlines change over the years, right? From terrorism to pandemics, there's always something in the news that's going to frighten us parents about what the risks are. And there are inherent risks to international travel, of course. But I'll tell you what stayed constant over all this time is that you can look at the statistics, what the main risks to student travelers abroad, I call them kind of the 3 A's, are alcohol, automobiles, and accidents. And usually accidents and alcohol, well, the three are often very related, right? These are the biggest risks. But yet, while that's scary, these are the risks that are absolutely most in student control. And that gives me a lot of confidence that when we prepare our students well to be mature about their choices, that they have a ton of control over their safety. And so that's a big thing for us. But other skills from study abroad that you want to share, that like learnings, takeaways that you've had?
Okay, so for me, I'd say that overall, it's been my communication skills. I think they improved tremendously. And then also the ability to connect to, with, different people. And I could see that, because when I was in Spain, I talked to very different people. I met, people, I don't know, immigrants in Spain, people are from Catalonia and how they feel about, Catalonia and their, whole independent movement or whatever. And then all those, things just kind of helped me connect better, because this past summer I had an internship at Bank of America, and it was just easier for me to just talk to people because, the teams are very diverse. talk to people who came from like India, Singapore. And I remember having a conversation with somebody from Spain, and we could just talk about like soccer, FC Barcelona, and things like that. So I think the biggest takeaway for me was, just my communication skills. And then also I think my view of the world has improved a lot, like, because, being there and like actually, in the country, like just opened my eyes to many things that I could just, see on the news and not really understand, like see, and, get different perspectives on.
Honestly, I agree with that completely. My communication skills improved immensely. I actually learned more German than I really thought I would. And luckily, because of my Swiss roommate, I can still practice. So I constantly improve. I guess the only thing I would add is that I loved it so much, like the experience. I do have a EU like a Romanian passport, so it's EU country. But like still, I'm applying for jobs out there now, like in Switzerland, in Austria. So you get immersed to these cultures and you really fall in love with the people. And you can't get enough of it, I guess.
And being at Bentley this long, I know a lot of Bentley alums now, and I'm truly amazed and impressed with how many Bentley alums, even students who I know students who have never left Massachusetts when they were a student before coming to Bentley, and the global careers that these students have had just fills us with pride. Significantly living on multiple continents, working either for global organization brand names that or even startups as well. So it truly is, I think, thinking of study abroad not as tourism, not as travel, but as an investment in your career development, your personal development, is really what sets study abroad apart and makes it transformative, not transactional. So I know we only have a little bit of time for questions, and you probably want to ask about all kinds of things, but a few tips I would leave you with, like I said, to students especially, and families can help with this. A lot of times students come in with the first question being, where should I go? Where's that one program or country that's right for me? And I truly would say that the better questions to start with are not where to study abroad, but why do I want to study abroad? And how do I want to study abroad? What does that look like for me? If you start with those questions and have some real honest answers for yourself, I'm confident that you will find that regardless of where you end up, you will have a really transformative learning experience. So that goal setting is important. And the more you can bring that out in your application, the better, so we can understand who you are and help you match you with a good program. Although students do have the ability to put preferences on their application of first, second, third choices. Be flexible and look for students who have studied abroad in lots of places. Just by sheer numbers, you're going to find a lot of students on Bentley's campus who have studied abroad in Spain, Italy, Australia, UK. Well, Australia, not as much lately because they were one of the strictest countries with border closures. But force yourself to get out and find maybe, the one student who studied in Morocco, or the couple students who studied abroad in Argentina, or the few who studied abroad in Japan, or South Africa. So there's programs on every continent, but not as many Bentley students have gone, and their experiences are no less transformative for them. You just don't hear about them as often. So seek those out and learn about the differences, because I'm convinced that students like Alpha and Andrew, who had different experiences, a common thread I see often is that they spent less time with other Bentley students, and it makes a difference. It really does. And finally, I suppose another tip to leave you with, and then we'll get into questions, is that you all as families will have excellent questions. You will know the good questions to ask, and you'll have fears and anxieties and wonders. Empower your students to take the lead in finding those answers for you early on in the process before they even leave Bentley's campus. even if, of course, we'll answer your emails, we'll answer your calls, and we'll answer questions for you, but empowering your student to do that only gives them the benefit of building their confidence before they go, because there's nothing like that feeling of confidence getting on the plane that they actually know how to use that insurance or that 24-hour hotline, or they know who to call. That really helps teach them to fish. It goes a long way to build their self-advocacy, because all those kinds of skills, like the flexibility, the communication skills, the ability to deal with ambiguity, these are exactly the kinds of things that employers are looking for, and these are the kind of high power skills that really do come from study abroad and make it so transformative. So finally, we've talked about scholarships. Don't forget about that. Internships, there's common threads there. Not enough students are doing internships, and there are opportunities to do that. It really can transform the experience. And relationships, because the relationships with Bentley students will stay and survive through being abroad. But the ability to make relationships across cultures is really what sets study abroad apart, and those relationships last. Start with why and how. I talked about that already. And yeah, these are, I think, the keys of what will make study abroad not just transactional, but transformational. So thanks to my panel, Andrew and Alpha. Thank you. And I'm sure they are willing to answer as many questions as I am too. So please ask us. And sorry, Elsa, do you want to say something?
I have a question online.
Okay, great, sure.
Happy. So what is the deadlines for a sophomore to apply for a program, and what should be the first step?
Great. So the question is, what are the deadlines for current sophomores who want to apply to study abroad next year? And it is an annual application deadline. While we do have what we call a mini application deadline in the early fall, those are more limited offerings, just where we have spaces left. So although they're phenomenal as well, but the annual application deadline is every February 1st. And in fact, we have an incentive fee waiver deadline to complete the application over January break. This year, it's January 9th is our deadline. So if you're a sophomore student and you really want to study abroad at all for a semester next year, you should think about applying over this winter break. And what steps you should take is look at our website for all the kinds of sessions we're running. We're running scholarship, information sessions to help build a competitive scholarship application. We're running sessions with academic advising on how to do long-range planning to prepare academically for study abroad. We're running sessions on just how to pick a program and how to look at the different options. There are so many, how to strategize about that. So try to and look at Study Abroad 101 on our website. So there's a lot you can look on our website and attend our sessions to actually kind of get your juices flowing. I would actually recommend that before scheduling a one-on-one appointment with an advisor. Although students can go right to our website and schedule those one-on-one appointments, I think they'll be richer if you've done a little bit of exploration first on campus. Hope that's good. Sure.
So I'm sort of in the middle because my son is a junior going to Austria in January. And I can say as a parent, I'm so happy with your office and your process. So any parent that's nervous, don't be. I was. It's been phenomenal. And all those questions like housing, visa, phones, classes, deposits, like that I had as a parent, he had the answers from all of you. So the one question I do have for you is, what do you want from the parents? Like, I'm like, Mom, you said you need deadlines. And no, Mom, you're fine. And he's like, I'll let you know when we need money and all that. So they're making him independent. But what do you want from us?
Okay, that's thank you. First of all, that's not a plant. I'm really, I'm really happy to hear that. But I'm so glad you asked that, because I'll tell you my number one tip that I've said, and I almost forgot to say it if you didn't remind me. And other parents have told me that they're happy to hear that. So oftentimes we hear, can I visit? When should I visit? Please don't travel with your student to arrive. I'd actually strongly discourage it. If you really want to visit, and there's an argument made about not visiting at all to really make it their own experience. But if you do want to visit much later in the semester, much later, because there's, I think, something essential about those first, and you talked about it being difficult. It's not all easy. Study abroad is really, really rewarding. And reward comes from stuff that's hard, right? It can be challenging. Do you have anything to add about like what beginning? And I don't know if any of your families came with you at the beginning.
My parents, there's like the spring break in Austria is actually April. They call it the Easter break, and you get a week off. So my parents came during this time, and we did a few trips to see family, to see all this stuff. But really, like in my experience, it was mostly from the students. The parents were, there to support and be strong moral compasses. But aside from that, that was like the biggest thing for me, was being able to grow on that independence and stuff. So it was really good actually for me.
Yeah, so my parents weren't able to visit me, but I think, just being in that, like, that first month, it was really hard because I remember like, getting from the airport to my apartment, like, I didn't even know how to say, this is my stop, or like, I'm getting off here. Like, I was so confused. But, but over time, now that, because I've gone through all that, and even like, as, she was talking about like how, there like people tend to be slower, like in responding to emails and stuff like that. So I understood that like on my own, so that, I went to the office like in person and like talked to them. And, that just, I don't know, like it made me realize that I can overcome, difficulties, which I think is a very good thing to, to be aware of, or like to know or to develop.
Thank you. One more, and we'll happily stay here to answer individually. Any more questions in the audience? There surely must be some. Yes.
I would like to first of all, thank you very much. It's amazing. It just makes us so excited about all the opportunities that our kids have here. My question is, are there any study abroad programs that are specifically aligned to certain majors, that like certain unique majors, like actuarial science, for example? Do you have any specific programs that you would recommend?
The question was if there are study abroad programs aligned to specific majors. And I would say generally, we really don't have just programs where we say, oh, if you're this major, this is where you've got to go. Certain majors have more constraints than others. And so certainly our study abroad advisors can help you identify, okay, if you're an actuarial science major and you've got a, rigid curriculum, there's some programs that just, you're not going to be able to just take all arts and science classes for, your semester abroad. So we can point you to programs that are more and less, but there's definitely not just one program. But there's but on the other hand, what students can do is talk to us about, or research on the website, what are the programs, what are the host universities most reputable for, right? So we often have obviously a lot of economics students studying at the London School of Economics, although it's the London School of Economics and political science. It's social sciences, management. There's a lot more than just economics there as an example. But getting to know what some of the university's really core strengths are can help guide students to say, oh, well, I'm a corporate communications major, and University of Navarra in Pamplona has one of the best communication schools in the world. So that might be somewhere I might think of. So that's how we go about it, is trying to help students understand what the university's strengths are. I think I'm getting roped off, but I'm happy to stand and ask questions individually up front or down here if there's nothing else right after this, I think.
No, I want to thank Natalie and the students for being here. Like she said, she'll stay and help to answer questions. We will also send out an email after this weekend, and we in the alumni office can help to facilitate any questions that you might have, whether today or if you leave and you have other questions. Our email address is also alumni@bentley.edu. So we are happy to help connect you with Natalie or get you the answers that you need. I just wanted to share that at 11 will be the town hall with President Crite and Dean Shepherdson, and that is just at the next building over in Cumanzales. And then back here at noon is when we will have our career services discussion. So thank you so much.
Allison. Thank you, Alpha. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you all. Well done.